Welcome to
afternoon,
Senate
Mr. Chairman.
Education. This is Senate Bill 71. Oh, before we get started, 74, by the way, I made a mistake. I just want to repeat again, I did at the beginning of the meeting, that Senate Bill 31 will not be heard today. Senate Bill 31 will not be heard today. Okay. I have an amendment to your bill before we get started.
No fun.
Is this your amendment or my amendment?
Is that Clater's?
This is my amendment. Can you give her copies of the amendment, please?
You have an amendment before I get started?
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, you could get started if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Go ahead, get
If I
started.
could present the bill, and then,
Well, I have an amendment that might affect how you present the bill.
okay, but I would like to present the bill as I filed it.
It's your call. Please present
You
the
don't
bill.
mind?
Absolutely, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Senate Bill 74 involves the Louisiana Science Education Act. And I would contend that it hurts Louisiana's students and damages Louisiana's reputation. It has done so for some time and holds our state back from economic competitiveness. We were just talking, and I heard not only you, Mr. Chairman, but others mention in the previous two instruments as they were discussed, our economic competitiveness in trying to attract tech jobs and engineering jobs and science and medicine jobs, all of these industries that we are trying to attract. Then we need to stop passing anti-business legislation. Our economic success relies on a competitive, modern workforce, and that advanced workforce starts with the state-of-the-art educational system. So that's why I bring forth this bill, which the bill is entitled the Intelligent Outcomes Wanted Act. And that act, the acronyms for that, is Iowa. We hope it will garner, as it's not in the past, the governor's attention. I know he won't want to be against the Iowa Act, although he spends a lot of time there. Once again, Iowa stands for the Intelligent Outcomes Wanted Act. I don't think he would want to be against that. Nonetheless, the repeal campaign is endorsed by 78 Nobel laureate scientists who I happen to respect the work that they've done over the many decades. That is nearly 40% of the living Nobel laureate scientists. 40% of them have supported the repeal of this act, and numerous other prominent scientists. It has also been endorsed by the American Association for the Advancement of Science and other major science and education and educator organizations in Louisiana and the United States. Some have said that, why do you keep, I was in the Advocate just yesterday and this morning again, the bill was offered so many times and it's failed so many times, and why do you keep reintroducing this bill? Well, sometimes it's the right thing to do, and just because people don't agree with you doesn't mean that you should stop presenting ideas that are worthy of consideration and change. There are many instances, and we can go back centuries, where there were laws on the books that were not good laws. In fact, they were wrong and unjust laws, and they were wrong. And if people had stopped trying to change those laws, then we would not be where we are today. I can give many examples of that. I can give examples of that on what we were just talking about, fiscal issues. For years, we've been talking about this cliff that we were about to face. For years, there have been some of us that have talked about, why are we giving away so much money in tax credits and rebates and exemptions? But all of a sudden, people start paying attention. And so it is not, it is important that if you have a moral compass, and if in fact you believe in something, and if you have conviction and compassion about something, that you should continue to articulate those principles and advocate for what you believe is in the right interest, in the best interest of our state and our people. I will continue to do that, notwithstanding the fact that there may be opposition from time to time. End with this. We deserve in Louisiana a world-class science education system. We deserve that. Repealing this act, the Louisiana Science and Education Act, helps us to get one step closer to that goal. I will stand on the side of scientists every day and defer to that intelligence. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have Mr. Zach Copeland present testimony along with several other advocates and present the bill and request the repeal. Thank you.
This time I would like to present my amendment. Basically, my amendment's very simple. It deletes line, wait a minute, let me get my line, on page 1, lines 6 and 7, which is the Iowa reference. I believe that this is an issue that deserves legitimate discussion, and that's rather political statement. So at this time, I would introduce amendment set 858 and ask if there's any objection to that.
Can I speak to it?
Please.
Okay. So your position is that the name of the bill that I've introduced should be changed because it's political?
I believe that the name
That's
of
what
the
you just
bill
said.
is political.
The
and
name of the bill is
not-
political?
And I think the subject of the bill is worthy of a lot higher level than turning into a political act, and therefore I suggest we delete those lines.
Well, let me just offer my comments. So I serve in a political body.
Correct.
Yeah, this is the state senate. And everything that I do every day when I come in my public service is in fact political, and the word emanates from policy. And so when the bill was drafted, it was drafted in the context of understanding who's for the bill, who's against the bill, and what people's goals are. Now, if you want to try to detach the ambition of the person who sits on the fourth floor from every instrument that we consider this session and depoliticize every issue and every instrument that we consider this session, we can go down that road. I would suggest that we not do that. Now, I understand that you may not be for this instrument, but to try to attempt to depoliticize a bill and try to detach the governor's, well, he may be in Iowa right now. That is my point.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. That's never good either. That's not good in the midst of what we're going through. And so, you know, it's your choice, but we can go down that road for every instrument if you like.
Well, I've been here 7 years, not as long as you. No, maybe as long as you. No, you've been longer than me. And I have never seen one yet, a bill that has real significance, and you have, if you will, clients that you're representing that has a political attack on a particular person. I just don't, if you want to bring a resolution on the floor of the Senate.
No. The words of the bill, I just told you what the acronym happens to be Iowa. However, the words mean something. Let's go through each word.
Well, wait a minute. Senator Morrell has a question. Hold on one second. Maybe
Okay.
he can impart the waters.
I don't know if I can part the waters, but I will say this. I think it's an incorrect statement to say that no one's ever filed a bill like this. I know that on a couple of instances, I tried to rename Common Core the Educational Reform Act as implemented by President George W. Bush. I failed pretty spectacular on that on every occasion. But I do understand. I think it would not be a bad idea. I think the chairman is coming from a respectful place in that he wants this to become this issue. As we talk about the importance of teaching science in schools, I think he's trying to keep that argument about the logical discussion. And I don't think he's trying to, I'm interpreting our chairman, but I don't think he's trying to diffuse your bill of all the political ramifications of the bill and why the bill is important. I support you bringing it every year. I often say movement in the state on any serious issue is always glacial in pace, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't keep pushing the glacial pace for change. But I think what he's just trying to do in his own estimation is trying to, since this bill is about such a serious issue, and it goes well beyond the governor, because the issue is this. the legislature passed without our votes. I'd like to comment, myself and Senator Peterson. The legislature passed the bill dealing with creationism, the Louisiana
Science Education Act.
Education Act. The legislature,
Which it's really not science education.
right. But that's all separate.
So
issue.
we can start with that.
Right, but the legislature is the ones that passed the bill.
Correct.
So having the bill have a name or an acronym that seems to push the governor's position on it, I think in a lot of ways you're letting the legislature off the hook because we passed the bad bill to begin with. So that's just, I don't think.
Let's jump to the substance, but I wanted to address the
Okay, I'm just saying.
chairman's
I don't think he's
opposition
coming.
based
Wait,
on
Senator Clater has a
depoliticizing.
point too. It's Senator Clater's turn. Go ahead.
No, I was looking to call the question on the amendment.
Okay. Well, the question's been called, so I guess we vote on the amendment.
And you move favorably on your own amendment.
I don't even object. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay.
Let's just jump to the
Is
substance.
there any objection to the adoption of amendments at 8:58? No objection, therefore the amendments stand adopted. Okay,
Okay.
now let's talk about the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zach Copeland is going to take it from here with the other advocates. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karen. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. I'm Zach Copeland, and I first testified against the Louisiana Science Education Act, better known as Louisiana's Creationism Law, when I was a senior at Baton Rouge High 5 years ago. 78 Nobel laureate scientists have joined me in calling for the repeal of this law. Major science and educator organizations with memberships in the millions are also supporting the repeal, and thousands of clergy members. And tens of thousands of people have signed petitions supporting this repeal. Senator Peterson has been steadfast in bringing this bill forward each year, and several of you have voted for it, and I really appreciate that. I hope she hears that from out of the room. And so thank you all for standing up for science and for Louisiana's students. And back in 2013, Senator Pell, you asked me point blank, do you have any evidence of school districts or individual schools that are physically teaching creationism? The intent of the law to allow teachers to teach creationism in our public schools has always been crystal clear. Senator Nevers said that when he introduced it, and Governor Jindal has said that when he's defended the law, that it's for teaching creationism in our public schools. But as you no doubt recall, I did not have any specific names of schools. I didn't have the back door that you requested planned out. And so I made it my mission over the next few years to find you the evidence. It hasn't been easy. I've made phone calls, filed dozens of public records requests, and even had to file a lawsuit against the Department of Education to get some of the records I asked for. Today, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm here to tell you that I found the teachers, I found the districts, I found the supplemental materials, and I found that the Louisiana Science Education Act is working as its backers hoped it would. It's allowing Louisiana teachers to sneak creationism into their public school science classes. And it's not just one teacher or one district where creationism is being taught. First, in Sabine Parish in 2013, and I'll allow the Lane family to speak much more about this, this teacher, Rita Rourke, harassed C.C. Lane, a Buddhist student, in her 6th grade science class, insulting his religion. She also told the class that evolution is a stupid theory that stupid people made up because they don't want to believe in God. Rourke's science test included a fill-in-the-blank question, all caps, that said, "Isn't amazing what the blank has made?" And students were expected to write in Lord. That may have a place in Sunday school, but not in public school science classes. Second, I have emails from Ouachita Parish teachers that provide specific evidence that creationism is being taught. 2 West Monroe High School science teachers drafted questions for the students to promote critical thinking skills. Promoting critical thinking is one of the main political arguments for the Louisiana Science Education Act. And these teachers interpreted it as it was intended, an invitation to teach creationism. One question they came up with: name an evolutionary change that would support both the Big Bang Theory and creationism. Their proposed answer: snake leg nubs. If anyone doesn't know why this line of thinking is scientifically invalid, I'll be happy to clear it up later. Another West Monroe high school teacher wrote in an email, "I am of the belief that what I teach in my science class," and then this was about creationism, and she also said the Big Bang, "goes hand in hand with the things I've learned in church." Third, school boards and school board members around the state have interpreted this law for teaching creationism. In Tangipahoa Parish, school board member Brett Duncan requested under the Louisiana Science Education Act guidelines for the review of supplemental materials to be used by teachers for discussing evolution, creationism, and intelligent design be developed. In Terrebonne Parish, a pupil progression plan said that under the Louisiana Science Education Act, teachers will deliver facts for both arguments. That's both evolution and creationism. In Livingston Parish, in 2010, Jan Benton, the school system's director of curriculum, said that the Louisiana Science Education Act was for critical thinking and creationism. Ms. Benton is now a member of the school board. Another school board member, Clint Mitchell, said teachers should have the freedom to look at creationism and find a way to get it in the classroom. Even inside the Louisiana Department of Education, we've had problems with creationism. I have an email from Nick Bolt, a former deputy chief of staff of the department, which says creationism is an academic fact. Fourth, I have a letter signed by more than 20 current and former science teachers in Ouachita Parish in which they state unequivocally on the record that they challenge the theory of evolution, claiming it has discrepancies in their classrooms. They write that they do without legal fear or tension because of the Ouachita School District's official policy that encourages teaching creationism. This policy was the basis of the Louisiana Science Education Act. The first signature on that treatise is from Robert Weber, the superintendent of Ouachita Parish Schools. The Central Community School System recently adopted a policy similar to the one from Ouachita, so their teachers now have been given a front door by their district leadership for teaching creationism. And it's only a matter of time before their district follows the law and answers my public records requests and will identify the way Ouachita has which of their faculty are teaching creationism. And so before anyone asks me to connect Central's policy or Ouachita's policy to the Louisiana Science Education Act, let me answer. After this policy was adopted by Central Community School District, the Central City News that wrote that it was passed precisely because it, quote, takes advantage of the Louisiana Science Education Act. And the Central City News would know this. They had the exclusive scoop. Based on public records requests I received, it's clear that the news article was written by retired Judge Darrell White, one of the chief advocates of the Louisiana Science Education Act from the Family Forum, and Danny Pennington, a creationist principal at Good Hope Middle School in Ouachita, who has also been a leader in fighting evolution in the schools. I'm sure you all know Judge White. I'm actually surprised he's not here today. He's a key reason that creationism can be taught in public schools. Way back in 2006, according to emails I obtained, he organized a meeting in West Monroe to inform teachers about intelligent design. A judge from Baton Rouge will speak on intelligent design, wrote Cynthia Osborne, a curriculum coordinator for the Ouachita Parish School System, in an email to her science teachers. Please inform any teachers they are invited to attend. A few months later, the Ouachita Parish School Board passed its creationism science policy, which had been lifted straight from Judge White's website. Again, this policy was what the original precursor to the Louisiana Science Education Act and works in conjunction with it. And while promoting creationism in Ouachita, Judge White found an important ally. I think many of you know him, which is Representative Frank Hoffman. Representative Hoffman was the assistant superintendent of Ouachita schools and sponsored the Ouachita policy. Again, this is to link these two together. He sponsored the Ouachita policy, then he took it statewide when he sponsored the Louisiana Science Education Act. And Danny Pennington, that creationist principal who helped Judge White ghostwrite the article for Central City News, used to be a biology teacher at West Monroe High School. There, he created a set of creationist curricula and DVDs meant for the public school classroom. While employed by the school system, Pennington filmed himself exploiting creationist policies to attack evolution. Another Louisiana creationist, Charles Voss, who publishes his own creationist supplemental materials to be used in Louisiana schools, emailed Pennington, said the DVD you made in the classroom is needed to show what a teacher can do in a single period. You literally destroyed evolution in one 40-minute period. Judge White, Voss of one of the creationist curriculums, and Pennington, who made the other, made a second set of DVDs also made for public school classrooms. Pennington said, I will take out all references to creationism and just focus on the stupidity of evolutionary theory, where he was describing how he would sneak religion into the classroom. In another email, he wrote, the focus of my presentation will be on textbook problems. No creationism or age of the earth mentioned at all. I believe they can be shown in classrooms. I know what to say and what not to say. Again, it's about sneaking it in. We call it a back door, and this is how it's being exploited. Later, when Central was adopting its creationism policy, which, remember, takes advantage, again, of the Louisiana Science Education Act, someone suggested handing out a copy of Pennington's DVDs to the public. Pennington advised against it. You know why? He said the opposition will be screaming creationism enough as it is. And I haven't gotten a copy of these DVDs yet, but I did obtain a copy of his written curricula for students. It uses traditional creationist rhetoric like students and teachers should understand that many past conclusions based on fossil evidence were simply wrong. Again, if anyone wants information on the scientific validity of the fossil record, I can point you to the evidence-based science afterwards, but this curriculum does not belong in science class. In his guidelines for teachers, Pennington advises them to link the teaching of evolution to existing district policies about teaching controversial issues. Again, this is how you exploit these policies in the Louisiana Science Education Act to teach creationism, and to do that to stay out of legal trouble. Again, evolution is not controversial among scientists. That's why 78 Nobel laureate scientists have asked for this bill to be repealed. And remember Livingston Parish? Emails released to me by Washita show that the effort to put creationism in Livingston schools continues. In one email, Judge White wrote, "Let's get some more Livingston School Board members to a meeting and develop a timetable to introduce science, academic freedom in this parish." But he advised them this time, rather than to talk directly about creationism or specific supplemental materials, he urged them to adopt a policy with aspirational language, is the way he framed it, which wouldn't be subject to challenge by ideologues. Again, sneak it in. You don't say creationism outright, you just adopt these policies. And White also wrote that Danny Pennington has expressed his willingness to conduct in-service training for science teachers. He added he presented such training to Central School District educators several years ago. I guess Pennington was willing to share his creationist videos with them. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the evidence is undeniable. 2 districts with policies promoting creationism, 20 teachers signing a document admitting to teaching creationism, a teacher in Sabine Parish calling children stupid for accepting evolution, and 3 more parishes who've been promoting creationism at their school boards, and an organized campaign of the bill's supporters to push creationist curriculum into classrooms across Louisiana. Yes, I know I always say that the Louisiana Science Education Act is designed to sneak creationism into the classroom, but don't take it from me anymore. Just listen to Judge White and Pennington, and listen to the teachers in Washita Parish. That's what they're advertising, and that's what they're doing, sneaking creationism into the classroom under the guise of the Louisiana Science Education Act. The chairman asked me for evidence, and I've brought it. I've done my part. Now I ask the committee members, listen to the Nobel laureates, listen to the scientists, listen to the tens of thousands of petition signers, listen to the science organizations, and repeal this law that embarrasses our state, offends scientists, and hurts our students. You have a choice to make today. Choose to be on the right side of history and our students. Thank you so much for listening to me, and now I will turn it over to Scott to talk about his experience in Sabine Parish.
I turn it on to you. Okay. Before you begin, Senator Morrell has a question, I think for Mr. Copeland.
Thank you. It's a really quick question.
Yeah.
As an attorney, I'm extremely concerned because I've read and reread the text of the Louisiana Science Education Act. And as you're well aware, the way our Constitution is drafted, we're not supposed to promote any particular religion. In your research in regards to how this act is being imposed, are individuals teaching alternative creationist theory other than Judeo-Christian dogma?
I have never discovered it. I mean, it technically could be allowed under the law.
Well, the question I have as an attorney is that if you're going to follow the U.S. Constitution and not promote a particular religion as a state religion, if you're going to present anything regarding creationism, there are a variety across the world of across religions of different interpretations of how the world was created. If you have teachers only teaching one interpretation from one religion, I would be really interested, and I'll happy to talk to the individuals you've talked to, the parents that you've talked to, but if they're only teaching one religion's interpretation of creationism, that is a serious constitutional issue. Because if you're going to present anything based on a religious text, you have to present several and respect several different types of religious interpretation. Otherwise, you're running afoul of the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, I think, one of my favorite creation myths is actually one of the Chinese ones, because someone a couple thousand years ago will ask how the world came about. They said, oh, well, I guess someone ate so much they exploded and that built the world. But what's more important is how our culture was created, and they started explaining the cultural creation myths. And that is a perfect example of what I want to go into, which is it belongs in history class, not a science class. If we're talking about creation myths, it's perfectly appropriate to have in a history class, but it's not science. And so that the Chinese myth makes sense in a history class, and all the other ones do too. And so I want to bring that up there.
Is it, are you Mr. Love? Is that it?
Lane.
Lane.
Mr.
Okay,
Lane.
Scott Lane.
Committee members, thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. As a parent, SB 74 is incredibly important. The Louisiana Science Education Act is not about religious or academic freedom. It's simply about teaching creationism in public schools. We must repeal it for our children's future so they can compete scholastically and for jobs in the future. Louisiana is currently ranked towards the very bottom of the states when it comes to science. Why is that? I don't think it's because we don't have capable students. I think the problem is we have a creationism law that is considered a devastating flaw by the Fordham Institute, a highly respected conservative education think tank. The LSEA claims to promote critical thinking skills by allowing the introduction of materials that would allow teachers to question aspects of scientific claims and theories. From the appearance, this sounds laudable and even beneficial. The scientific method is, after all, based on the attempt to falsify each and every claim and theory. We don't need a law to tell teachers to teach science, and that's science. That's already in place, and that should be what they're teaching. Contrary to the spin, the Louisiana Science Education Act doesn't actually provide a new or unique mechanism to teach students how to use a scientific method. Nor does it teach how to attempt to falsify a scientific claim or theory using the scientific method. You only need this law if you're trying to introduce a non-scientific idea as science. As a parent, I've learned the hard way what it's like when your kids are taught creationism. My kids were taught that the theory of evolution is just a stupid idea that stupid people that don't want to believe in God made up. This is actually what my children's science teacher taught in a public school. We had to file suit to protect our children from a bullying teacher and an intolerant school district who were forcing their religion and creationism down our children's throats. The belief by many was that this is somehow legal and condoned by the state under the LSEA. What is really sad is that in the end, the LSEA doesn't make it legal to introduce creationism or intelligent design. It fails to protect the teacher, the school, and the state from the litigation that will come as the result of their assuming the law somehow does make it legal to teach their religious beliefs. No matter how the LSEA is construed, it is a violation of the law to teach creationism in public schools, period. Yet this law provides the wink and the nod that gives teachers the impression that it's legal to violate the law. We're encouraging our teachers to violate federal law. I'm sorry, but I see that as morally wrong. Only in litigation will these teachers find out that this law doesn't protect them. And only in litigation will they realize that instead, the law and their government sold them down the river. Who pays? The schools, the communities, and the teachers that thought they had your approval will. But ultimately, our future, our children will bear the brunt of the cost as they move into higher education and the workforce and realize they were not properly prepared. This law is embarrassing. It's losing our state money from tourism, conferences, and science jobs. It's risking an expensive lawsuit, and more importantly for me, it's hurting our children. I can only see one positive result of the LSEA, and that it provides a target for other states to point and look at and say, at least we aren't Louisiana, just like I've said about Mississippi many times before. You have a choice to make. Do you want to be on the right side of science, of the Constitution, of history, or do you wish to be remembered as the defendants in the Kitzmiller versus Dover are? In the words of Judge John Jones III, the citizens of Dover area were poorly served by the members of the board who voted for the ID policy. It is ironic that several of these individuals who so staunchly and proudly touted their religious convictions in public would time and again lie to cover their tracks and disguise the real purpose behind the ID policy. Will there be a similar epitaph for this Senate? Please support SB 74 and repeal Louisiana's creationism law.
Okay, so also while we're here, I wanted to introduce you to Cole Lane, who had to experience that in his school, and I really hope now that you're here, I guess I've heard that you'll want to let the other side speak and then have a vote very quickly, so to get to finance. So thank you so much for listening to us. I really appreciate that. I really hope you listen to what I have to say about this law and listen to the Lanes about what they've experienced. And thank you so much for your time. Would you like him? I thought what I got told is that you'll need to hurry up. Okay.
Cole. His name is Cole Condi.
Oh, Cole.
He's
okay,
my
I'm sorry.
stepson.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Cole, and welcome to the committee.
Thanks for allowing me to speak today. I'm Cole Condi, and I moved from Utah to Louisiana. It was a different change because everything I had learned in science was called wrong and stupid when I was in school at Negri. My teachers told me that evolution was stupid theory made up by stupid that people that don't want to believe in her God. In Utah, we learn about science and evolution. They don't tell me to believe in Mormon religion. Then my teacher at Negrete made fun of me in front of the class because I don't know why she wanted me to answer Lord or God on her science test. My brothers in Utah picked on me because the schools in Louisiana are bad and have a law that lets the teachers their religion instead of the science. I don't want my new home to be called smart because they don't know how things work and everyone else does. My new school doesn't teach the teacher's religion instead of science. Is this law why some schools think they are supposed to teach their religion and others don't? It's not a good law. I want to tell my brothers that I'm smarter than they are and I want to be proud where I live.
He goes to Manny Junior High now. He went to Negrete School, incorporated K through 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you for coming today, Cole. Well done. Senator Walsworth has a question. Hold.
Your stepfather,
Correct.
did you file a complaint to the Department of Education?
We filed it with the superintendent of the school board at
Okay.
first and the schools.
Okay. And what was their response?
They told me we lived in the Bible Belt and we had to live with it.
Okay. And that's all,
Well, then they wrote a letter to the principal who read it to the school on the PA system the next morning, basically making fun of him and my other kids.
and they used his name?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Zach, I'm just in the other room, but I did hear Mr. Pennington out of Washita Parish. Do you have the emails with you that you can show us?
I don't have them with you. What I can do is send you a PDF of all of them, and they're online in a Slate article I wrote, and I can also send that to you all and make sure you all get it.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to see those.
Yeah.
And again, where was the school where this was announced? Which school was it where this was announced over the public address system?
At Negrete School, it's a K through 12 school. In Sabine Parish, they have 2 schools that are complete high schools. All the other schools are K through 12.
But that's a traditional public school. I mean, it's a public school.
The public school. I graduated high school about 20 miles north in a similar type of school.
Okay, Senator Clater has some questions.
Yeah, thank you. I understand there was a lawsuit that was filed in the matter that you're describing there. And that was, I'm sorry that I'm not completely up to speed. Did you file that lawsuit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I seem to recall having looked at the petition. Was there any claim within the petition as far as making claims for your child's religious freedoms? I seem to remember there was about non-promotion of the state religion, but we have a strong religious freedoms act here that it seems like you would have been able to make a claim under that. Do you know if you made any claim under that?
No, I don't believe we did.
Okay. Well, there's a bill that protects your religious freedoms that was passed some time ago that you might have to take a look at. So thank you.
Senator LaFleur.
Mr. Copeland, you come here every year for several years. I worked with your dad. I was trying to remember. We voted on this thing so many times I forgot how I voted. I think I voted both ways.
I think you've always been for us, actually.
Have I?
I think so.
Last year, I think Karen reminded me that I didn't vote with you. But Is there anything, if we didn't have this act in place, would there be anything to prevent a teacher from teaching the story of Genesis, whether it's in science class or if it's in religious studies class or a history class, or for that matter, in addition, to teach the theory, I guess, of intelligent design?
So, would there be anything to prevent a teacher?
Yeah, if my kids were going to, and the teacher said, this is evolution. There are some people that believe literally the story of Genesis, and there's also another theory out there that seeks to explain the unexplainable, and we call it intelligent design.
So, without the Louisiana Science Education Act, you can't teach. You can't teach it in a science class. You can teach anything about creationism in a history class and a world religions class. And what I would also say, just to make clear something, is intelligent design is it's often confused as the belief that like God caused evolution, which is actually not what that is. That's usually recognized as theistic evolution, and intelligent design is a new word. It's just a rewording of creationism. And so, but again, religion is not appropriate in the science class because it just has no comment on science. It has nothing to do with science. Science is entirely separate from the metaphysical. It's just the way we look at the natural world.
But as a way to teach a class, wouldn't it be appropriate for the teacher to say there is a non-scientific view of how the world got cranked up?
So, that's for Sunday school, not for, because we have a separation of church and state. That you, by not saying there's also a religious view, it's not saying that there's not a religious view. It's just not even commenting on it, and you allow the parents and the churches and all that to do that kind of education in the appropriate place. That's what I'd say there.
Right, but I still wouldn't think it inappropriate for a teacher to say, there is a religious view based on the start of the world, and it's not Big Bang, it's Genesis.
Yeah, but as Senator Morrell pointed out earlier, there's so many different religious views about creation that putting it in the science class
and
would
then
be
you
wrong.
have to include the guy that ate the food.
Yeah, and so you have so many views, which is why we have that separation where the appropriate places each family teaches.
But again,
their own
you could
kid.
say Genesis, and then there's a whole bunch of other religious views based on the
But
start of the world.
But we can also say that in world religions class.
Yeah.
Is where I would put it. I mean, I think it's actually necessary to have world religions and philosophy in classes address all these things. But I think there's a very clear point where we say this is science and this is our world religions, and we understand there's that separation in that category for each one.
And so, is it Cole?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I went to a Catholic school. They didn't teach evolution when in science. Knew the story of Genesis. And we believed in God, even though we weren't taught the story of evolution. So you shouldn't be, you don't need to be too concerned about the comments that were made to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That-
I'm gonna, it's sort of in response to Senator LaFleur's question. We did have the balanced treatment for creation science and evolution science as the law back in 1981, and it was found unconstitutional in Edwards v. Aguilar. And the this particular bill's birthplace is found in the dissent of that case. And so just filling in a little bit of the blank there on what Mr. Copland had said, in that you cannot promote a religion is what was called for in that particular case. I've brought the bill and the amendment to take the old law off the books, and we're not even agreeable to taking the old law that's been found unconstitutional off the books. So it's a different trajectory on this, but I don't think with you, I don't think there's any prohibition whatsoever to say in civics and in history that if these are some different views on where the world came from and religions, just as long as there's no promotion of a single religion. So that's Professor Dan on that one.
Thank you, Professor Claytor.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Wadsworth.
And we do this every year, and you went specifically after Washita Parish, and I would like to see the proof that you've got in there. And I hated that. I wish you'd have told us that you were headed down that road, so we could at least had Mr. Pennington, I think it's only fair if you make some accusations after a teacher or a superintendent, which is Dr. Weber, whatever else. I think they ought to have at least their shot at responding to your accusations, and we don't even have that that ability. And I wish, I mean, you could easily do that and say, look, here's our thing. So I think it's sort of, would you, I mean, do you understand where I'm coming from on that, that is?
I do. What I would say is that I actually released all this stuff yesterday, and I would have released it far sooner if people had responded to my public records request. And I actually don't want to. Washita struggled with getting the document, and so there was sort of a time jump where I really pushed myself to get it out before this hearing even. Washita got me the documents faster than Central did. Central, actually, there was an issue where Central, I believe, has deliberately withheld records, and I have evidence that they have withheld records from me. And
But Washita Parish did send you all your records that you were
it took them 5 months, but they did provide me the records. And so, to their credit, they did. But again, that time frame made it hard for me to publish stuff earlier. And this was literally rushed. I'm in finals mode right now, and I rushed that out. And I wanted it out Monday or last week, and I got it out Tuesday. And it's unfortunate, but
and I can go online right now and see that.
yeah.
Where can I go online?
So if you Google Slate dismissing Darwin, you should,
SLATE,
yeah,
dismissing
yeah, Darwin.
Darwin.
And my name probably will help it come up faster. And it has in there links to a PDF of all the emails that I have in the links in the article. I've originally just clicked right on the first page. Should have the link in it.
If I said these words, you shouldn't kill another person, is that religious, or is that just,
That's not religious.
that's not religious?
No, I can say I strongly believe you should not kill other people. I don't think that's a religious statement when I say don't kill people. I think it can be a religious statement, but it's not. There's also many ways to interpret it. It's
Okay.
not a
So there's
religious
more than
statement
one
at all.
way of interpreting that
Yes.
statement. But one way you just said it could be religious.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Senator Gilreay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a time, sir, when scientists thought that the world was flat, and if you get to the end of it, you'd fall off. There was another time when scientists thought that the sun revolved around the world. And they always fought to ensure that anyone who disagreed with their science was a heretic. People were burned for not believing that the world was flat. People were really badly treated. My point, sir, is that not everyone knows everything. And in a school, there should be an open exchange of ideas. Knowledge only grows when people can talk about and have this intellectual back and forth, this discourse, with all ideas on the table. To restrict ideas is against knowledge, and it's against education. Therefore, at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I move that this bill be involuntarily deferred.
Could I quickly respond to one thing in there, which is when we're talking about exchange of ideas, we don't allow teachers the academic freedom to teach 1 + 1 = 3. And it's the same thing with creationism.
1 = 2. We do not know all. And it is those more complex ideas that I'm talking about that we need to have intellectual access to. I don't believe that 1 + 1 will ever be shown to be other than 2. But on the more complex matters of how we all came to be and where we're going and what we're doing, I think that that's a process that is finite, is infinite and not finite.
Then I will end on a note from Sir Harry Kroto. He's a Nobel laureate scientist. And while we're talking about the fact that basic evolution it is something that's considered by almost all biologists, overwhelming majority, which I have all these science organizations on our side, all these Nobel laureates. But he said, Sir Harry Kroto said, a Nobel laureate scientist, that the situation in Louisiana with having biology texts or having creationism in the classes is like teaching that the sun revolves around the earth. He said that about our state. And so I'll just end on that note.
All right, Senator Morell.
Thank you. Just a quick addendum to my good friend Senator Guillory's comments. Actually, when you talk about the world being flat and not the center of the universe, about Galileo, and it was the church that locked him up for nine years for advocating that theory. So, though I appreciate your comments and about there are alternative theories, when you look at history, oftentimes when science pushes the envelope, the leading person to lock that person up is oftentimes religious leaders. And at the end of the day, I think when you're talking about a fair exchange of ideas, as long as those ideas are based in fact, I think you really don't have a problem. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to have a logical discourse about things that are provable. I want to say a quick quote that I've been saving for this measure. It's from Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with. The good thing about science is that it's true whether you believe in it or not. And with that, make a substitute motion to report the bill favorably.
Actually, we had an improper motion by Senator Guillory. So I think a substitute motion is not quite in order at this time. We have cards, but we can have motions that circumvent that. I have your card, by the way. Specifically, I have your card. Senator Walsworth.
I pulled up your thing. And did you read what the teachers signed? The petition? Did you read the petition?
Yeah, discrepancies in evolution. It's, again, a backdoor, as I've been talking about, to teaching creationism.
I don't see, here's what they said: to whom it may concern, we, the undersigned science teachers, educators in Washita Parish, have seen a positive impact on our students as a result of the Washita Parish School Board's science curriculum policy adopted November 29, 2006. Students have a variety of cultural backgrounds. As a result, have many questions when it comes to subjects such as cloning, human-caused global warming, and biological evolution. Our science policy gives us the opportunity to discuss those views held by our students in light of scientific fact and to bring up scientific questions that challenge current scientific theories. When the curriculum addresses one of these topics, the students invariably get more involved in the lesson, which leads to better discussion and in turn to a higher level of achievement as students are relating to the material to themselves personally. Our students become more intrinsically motivated, which is the goal of popular differentiated instruction. If science teachers are not allowed to answer the students' questions, then we will stifle their curiosity and negate the very nature of inquiry science, which is to question a problem and then set out to find the answers. We are able to scientifically answer questions and show how widely held theories have discrepancy in them. Just hang on. We are able to do this without any tension or fear, thanks to our parish policy, science policy. And it's got a bunch of science teachers. What?
So the whole challenge...
Wait, hold on a second. We're having a debate between you two. We don't need a debate.
Okay.
We have are you finished, Senator Walsworth?
I just wanted to make sure that, for the record, we got what is on his thing. I think it's just teachers and students working together and talking about different theories. Not one theory. Doesn't say one theory. Different theories. Thank you.
I will not take any more
Senator
time.
Morell.
At this time, Mr. Chairman, I move that we call the question.
Okay, we have a motion to call the question. Is there any objection to that motion? You object to the motion? Okay. Call the roll.
Because the opposition.
Well, they call the roll.
That's fine. It's your call. This is a vote on the motion to call the question. So a no continues debate. Correct. A no continues debate. And I will read the cards in no matter what happens, so everybody.
Senator Morell? Yes. Senator LaFleur? Yes. Senator Clater? No. Senator Guillory? Yes. Senator Walsworth? No. Senator White? Yes. 4 yeses,
4 to
2
3.
noes.
He wants to go to 5. Okay, let me go ahead and read in the cards. Those in favor, oh, I'm sorry, that was, we haven't voted on the,
You have to have a motion.
huh?
Someone needs to make a motion.
You need, I have no motions right now. Senator Morell,
I move that we report this bill favorably, as amended.
we have a motion by Senator Morell to report the bill favorably as amended. We have a substitute motion by Senator Walsworth to, there is no such thing. Defer the bill. You guys remember the House too much. All right, the motion on the floor is to defer the bill. I will still read the cards in before we vote on the motion. These are the folks that are in favor of the original bill, okay? Dr. Christopher McCloskey, I hope I didn't mispronounce it. Sharon Lane, James Duggan, Kathy Newman, Dylan Wagasback, Susan Nelson, Michael Myers, Bruce Parker, Jane Durick, Pat Bedenbaugh, I hope that's right, I'm sorry, Angela Atkins, Julie Schwam-Harris, Cassandra Lee, Angela Atkins, Linda Walker. These are folks who were against the original bill. Mary Labrie, Peggy Vadrine, Elizabeth Kogler, Joy Passman, Beryl Amadi, Dr. Lenny Reese, Carol Thomas, maybe. Y'all got to write better, guys. Kerry Thomas, Kelly Bradbury, Sharon Jenkins, Suzanne Passman, Wayne Taylor, Stafford Palmieri, Sandy McDade, and Jean Mills. Okay, the motion on the floor is to defer Senate Bill 74. Is there any objection to that motion? Yes. We have objection. Please call the roll. This is a deferral. A yes or a yay on this motion would defer the bill.
Senator Morell? No. Senator LaFleur? No. Senator Clater? No. Senator Guillory? Yes. Senator Walsworth? Yes. Senator White? Yes. Senator Powell, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
We still have a few bills.